Thanks for having us. Really appreciate it. So Dee and I are actually part of Rosenblatt Investment Banking. We are a fintech-focused, Wall Street-based investment bank working with growth stage companies to help them with capital raising, mergers and acquisitions, and ultimately taking them public through IPO or SPAC.
Fabulous.
Sure, Sheila. So I'm part of the investment banking team with Vikas.
Okay.
And we've been in the business in the investment banking business for the last 13 years. Vikas launched our practice.
Okay.
We've been looking at this space for quite a while.
Okay.
And last 24 months, doing a lot of work in some of the outer edges of the fintech space, going into crypto and DeFi.
Okay.
And that's the session that I spoke at. But last 10 years, we've been focusing the fintech space, been coming to Money 2020 between Vikas and I for the last 10 years, and really seen the conference evolve from being a payments-focused conference to what it is today, which is truly a reflection of the industry. And in fact, going to crypto, blockchain, and even outside of financial services space. So fascinating to be here as a microcosm of what's happening outside in the financial services industry.
So we've been very fortunate. As Dee said, we've been tracking some of these companies when these companies were quite small and seen the evolution of these companies along the way. The rate of growth of some of these companies have been remarkable. And we've seen them go from a startup, a Series A company, to ultimately an IPO ramp in a matter of a few years, which used to initially take 10 years. Yeah. So that has been a massive transformation. Just this year, we participated on the IPO of Robinhood. We were one of the leading co-managers. We were on the SPAC advisor for a company called MoneyLion, capital markets advisor for them. And most recently, we've also participated on a debt offering for SoFi. So it's been a busy year for us.
Yes.
And it's really a combination of a number of things. One is about the market that the underlying company is addressing. The second is about the track record of the entrepreneur and the conviction of the entrepreneur to build and survive in the early stages, which are really some of the most grueling years that he or she is going to go through. Yes. And ultimately the backing that they can convince other investors to buy into their story. And we play a pretty big role in taking the story, packaging it, and positioning it with investors. And that has been something that we've been able to do successfully. Dozens of new companies created on a weekly basis, yeah. Right? So sometimes it does become overwhelming to track thousands of companies that are in the space. Yeah. We have created a tracking system and a mechanism, a platform internally that we use to track some of these companies. But really, more importantly, it is about identifying some of these spaces early on, staying in touch on the ground reality with the investors, with the companies, with the startup ecosystem, and really figuring out some of the companies that are breaking out nicely and they are demonstrating traction early on. And that really is the key for us that has been worked very, very well. There have been, of course, some misses on the way. We quote them along the way, all the way from growth stage, where they're doing typically Series B, onto the IPO ramp.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah.
Sheila, if I could add, it's like we are the scouts in the high school campus looking for kids that are going to be in the NCAA and the NBA, 5 years out. So that takes painstaking work. And as part of the process, we hold a conference every year. We call it the Fintech Summit. This is the 13th year we did that. And every year we look at companies that are early stage in the growth phase, so no public companies, all private firms. And sometimes they're firms that have barely raised a Series A round. Sometimes they could be firms that are well, down that path. Of course, all of that, the Series A, B, and C, as Vikas and I were talking earlier, has been condensed, over the last 12, 16 months. You've got Series A deals being done for $100 million, which was unheard of 12 months ago, right? when the average Series A deal was between $5 and $10 million. So everything is kind of accelerated, but it's just absolutely fascinating to go out there and scout out companies that are at the early stage. That is why we've been looking at the crypto DeFi space, which seems to be an area where there's a lot of new activity that's emerging. So it's just great to see those companies from the scouting them out on the high school, school grounds, and then seeing them actually become professionals and start playing on the big
amazing.
board.
Pretty amazing.
Sure, happy to, Sheila. First of all, if 5 years ago, or 2 years ago, if I thought I'd be speaking at Money 2020 talking about crypto, I wouldn't have believed that, right? So this is how far the difference has evolved, which is a tremendous testament to Tracy and the team. Look, we are watching a fascinating development of the infrastructure in the crypto and broadly the digital asset space, which we covered at our 13th Fintech conference. The same infrastructure that we saw, for example, in traditional markets and equity, fixed income, derivatives over the last 30 years, that both enables retail investors and institutional investors of all kinds to participate in the traditional market. That infrastructure in front of our very eyes is being developed for the crypto market. So execution, you saw Coinbase going public this year. First time people woke up and said, oh my God, they can have a $75 billion market capitalized company that only executes crypto trades, mostly when they went public, for retail investors. That is now, that energy is spreading across up and down the value chain. So whether it's custody, clearing and settlement, pre-trade tools,
Prime broker.
lending, prime brokerage, very importantly, all of that infrastructure is being developed for the crypto and broadly the digital asset space. And we absolutely want to play a part in that role. And we kicked off the DeFi Summit on Sunday morning at 10:30, and I thought nobody would be there, but we had standing house only. So it's fascinating to present our picture and our view and our perspective on that space. We are still on the outside in looking in. We're not helping build that infrastructure, but working with amazing entrepreneurs that actually building that stuff as we speak.
We are always open to having a thoughtful dialogue with people who've built their companies with blood, sweat, and tears. So we have a lot of respect for people just getting to off the ground to a stage where they are reaching Series B kind of thing. So we are always open and delighted to have that conversation. For reaching out, our website is RBLT, short form for Rosenblatt Securities, rblt.com. Dee and I are both on LinkedIn, on Twitter. So just look us up, reach out any of those avenues, and we'd be delighted to have a conversation with them.